Hey guys, E2 Insider from SunBros, and today I'm really excited to be bringing you guys another how to build video as we cover our brand new warrior assassin, Zuka. Alright guys, so as always we're going to start on Zuka's hero page, kind of figuring out who Zuka is and what he does and his strengths and weaknesses to figure out how we can best build him to maximize those strengths and try to minimize those weaknesses. Alright, so before we get started guys, let me remind you guys, if you guys enjoy the content, please give a thumbs up to the video, subscribe to the channel, and get ready for some other how to build videos. We're going to start producing 2 per week, some more top 5 content, as well as our Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday night live streams. Alright guys, so let's get started with his ability, starting with his passive, the Chi. Every 20 seconds, dealing damage to an enemy hero triggers Zuka's Chi, increasing his attack damage by 14 to 20% based on level. So you get 20% extra damage at level 13 for the next 8 seconds. So not only is 20% a lot of damage, but 8 seconds is a long time. So this is actually one of the stronger passives from the game in my opinion, and I'm really excited to be taking advantage of it. The first ability is Pain on a Stick. Zuka raises his staff and charges forward, dealing damage to all nearby enemies. And that's going to work on the actual roll or dash or whatever you want to call it that Zuka does. And the ability can be used again within 5 seconds. Each of those uses enhances Zuka's next normal attack, increasing his range and dealing additional magic damage. So that's one of the common things about Zuka, is all his abilities increase the damage of his next auto attack, and it's kind of a special rhythm that Zuka has that we're going to be really focusing on. So we're going to focus on the ability to make each of those after abilities, so after you cast an ability or auto attack, to make those as powerful as possible in order to take advantage of Zuka's abilities. Now the cooldown on this is 10 to start, gets down to 6 at level 6, and cooldown reduction obviously can lower it even more. The second ability is Panda Chariot. Zuka rolls forward, dealing damage to enemies in his path. On a successful hit of either a hero or a minion, Zuka gains a shield that absorbs damage for 2.5 seconds and enhances his next normal attack again to deal an additional physical damage and knock enemies into the air. So the first one gives you the enhanced attack range, increased range and damage. The second one gives you a knock up and damage. And then last but not least, his ultimate, Skyfall. Zuka leaps up and crushes his enemies from above, dealing a bunch of damage to all the enemies in the target area and stunning them for 1 second. His next normal attack will deal an additional damage to nearby enemies. So that one is just damage. So we have knock up and damage, we have range and damage, and then just damage. But after each ability, Zuka deals extra damage. So for me, off the bat, I'm going to tell you one of the items I'm definitely going to take with this to make those hits even harder is going to be Omni Arms. Now let's go ahead and go to a Zuka build here real quick, and we're going to prep one out here. Alright, now that we emptied it out, let's discuss exactly what we want to do. First of all, I'm going to take Zuka in the jungle. That's me. Obviously not everyone's going to want to do that, but I think that's where he's strongest, and I think that is where you can make the most of his abilities. He's got a good jungle clear, he's a fast jungle clear because of his mobility is so good, and he's got really great ganks because he both has crowd control and burst damage in order to be able to achieve a really solid entry gank. So I'm going to jungle with him because I'm a jungle main and that's what I'm going to do. And the decision that we have to make here is between Leviathan, which makes him tanky to start off, or Soul Reaver, which gives him not what he really needs. What he really needs because of his abilities and because of his after ability attack, auto attacks, is he needs attack damage. But neither of them gives attack damage. Attack speed is not really something that Zuka really truly needs to have. Life steal's not bad. Cooldown reduction is really good. And on the flip side, I should point out that this does get attack damage, pretty good amount. It's by 3 every, so it goes up to 45 attack. Not a lot, but it's some. Leviathan gives a bunch of health. It deals damage for Zuka being nearby. And so actually what I think is that Zuka isn't a burst damage hero like Wukong. I believe he will take advantage of the damage dealt by being nearby people, which is on the passive. But I think more than anything is that Zuka has a really, not say weak early game, but he's very squishy early game, mid, and late game, but early game especially. And I want to mitigate a little bit of that squishiness early and get him off to a really solid start. So this is going to give him a lot of health, as well as a faster jungle clear. Leviathan is always a really solid item for jungle clearing. It's going to make a big difference. I'm actually going to start with Leviathan, which is kind of an odd starting item A lot of people won't understand it, but I think that little bit of extra tankiness early on and throughout the whole game is going to do more for him than Soul Reaver would. So we're going to take Leviathan, then we're going to go to the attack section. Oh no, we're going to go Boots. Kill the Greaves, no question about it. Zuka doesn't have any abilities to remove crowd control, therefore he's going to be really obviously susceptible to crowd control. What we're going to do is we're going to get Gilded Greaves for one reason and one reason only. Obviously the movement speed is nice, but it's the resistance, 35%. So when you get stunned for a second, this item is going to take 35% of that 1 second stun away, so you'll only be stunned for 0.65 seconds. For a hero like Zuka, who's both squishy, susceptible to crowd control, this is really good for him. So next we're going to the attack section, and so this is a really cool item that I'm excited about on him because I think it fits all of his needs, and it's going to be Spear Longinus. So this wasn't really a question of, I had a question with my jungle item. Which one did I want? Would I Leviathan or did I want Soul Reaver? The boots weren't a question for me. That's why I didn't show you options. Gilded Greaves was always going to be the option because I need that resistance. And then we got Spear Longinus. It's the first item for him that I'm taking, period, no questions asked, for multiple reasons. Number one, you get attack damage, you get 15% cooldown reduction, which is great because his ability is what he does. His ability to kind of keep casting abilities is what makes him who he is, because it's the rhythm of ability, auto attack, ability, auto attack, ability, so he keeps going over and over again. Cooldown reduction allows him to do that better. And armor, we're making him even more tanky, not by destroying his damage, but now he's got a bunch of health from Leviathan, he's got 150 armor from Spear Longinus. But what's really delicious on him is that because we're constantly doing abilities, his first ability, his second ability, his first ability again, and his ultimate, it's that passive, decreases target armor by 50 on hit for 5 seconds. So here's what I've discovered. Number one, it works really good on Zuka because the decrease in armor to the enemy hero works both on the auto attacks as well as the damage done by each ability. So that's his ability twice, his first ability twice, his second ability once, his ultimate. Every time you hit somebody with those, the damage goes up because it ramps up to that 250 decrease in armor. So it actually works really well. So if I roll once my first ability and hit, that's 2 stacks. And then if I roll again and hit, that's 4 stacks right off the get-go. And I haven't even rolled to get my shield or ulted yet. Obviously that's not really the sequence of abilities that I'm going to use. It's just an example to give you. So really great item on him. I really liked what it did to his damage. It helped tremendously for both the ability damage and the auto attack damage. And it's also, 80 attack damage is nothing to frown upon. It's a pretty good amount of damage, and it's a difference maker. Next, like I said in the video, we're going to Omni Arms. Again, not a really questionable item. Omni Arms gives you 70 attack damage. Again, it's a pretty good amount. 15% attack speed is really not something we're going for. It's nice to have because it's included. 10% lifesteal, nice. That is enough to keep him out doing damage and not having to return to heal up, which is a really great thing. And then cooldown, now we're sitting at 25% cooldown reduction, which is nothing to scoff at. It's a lot more than 0%. It's not quite 40%, but it's doable. But of course, the reason we're really taking this item is the passive. After using an ability, the next normal attack within 5 seconds deals 100% more physical damage with a 2-second cooldown. Because of his abilities are constantly going to be being casted, and we're going to be ability, auto attack, because that rhythm exists, it's naturally going to increase the damage of all those auto attacks that are done directly after an ability. And those are already increased by the abilities themselves. So now you're getting even harder hits after every ability, which is obviously what we're doing is we're maximizing on a really strong point of Zuka's kit, and we're making it even better. Okay, then the next item to me is not really quite in contention, although this is kind of where it starts getting interesting. We have a couple routes to take, and I'll tell you kind of what those are. I have thought about taking a couple different items. Like obviously, we could take Rank Breaker, give him more penetration. I don't think that's something that's really beneficial to him, but it does give you a lot of attack damage, cooldown reduction, which would put you at 35%, which is a pretty nice round number, and it gives you the at level 15 250 more armor pierce. But again, 500 armor is not something that most heroes are going to have. Definitely no squishies are going to have that much. Some tanks, most tanks won't even have 500. So it's a little bit overkill on the armor pierce. Now the item that I really like taking here is actually going to be Clave Sanctity, and the reason why is because 100 attack damage is still great. It's still a good amount of attack damage, but I like the passive on him after dealing a critical hit. Now, this does give us 30% critical hit chance, and if you have some on your Arcana already, you'll have even more now, and it'll be, you know, you'll be somewhere in probably the 30 to 50 range is likely where I'm gonna end up, and probably most of you will end up who have the Arcana built out for an assassin like Zuka, and then, but you know, the increased movement speed. 3 per hero level is not bad. You're talking about maxing out at 45 extra movement speed. It's just an extra little nice buff every time he crits. And Zuka tends to find himself being a hero who goes in, you know, he tags, and then he goes out, and then he comes back in and tags. He's not really somebody who stays in the fight so much like a Zephys or somebody like that. So he can actually utilize the movement speed to go out and then to come back in again. But yeah, we're just giving him some crits, some more damage. And this is where, the last item is where I had some contentious thought on it now. Now, I could definitely go Rank Breaker, right? Rank Breaker is a solid item. Again, the Magic Pierce is a little overkill, but it's still 100 attack damage. It's still cooldown reduction. And you actually get movement speed by exiting battle. Now, the actual ability to, or the thing that you do to exit battle takes more than a little bit of time to happen. So like it takes like 3 to 4 seconds, I want to say, to exit battle entirely, which is not really helpful to what we're doing, especially not as a last item. Slick Sting was another item. Attack speed, not super useful, but 20% crit is. All those after ability hits could crit and do even more damage, and then the increased critical damage by 50%, pretty good amount. Now, that is also a good thought. But so what I did while I was really trying to figure out which one of these is going to make the most sense for Zuka, I went in and tested them out a little bit to see, you know, what was going to make the biggest difference. And what I found that actually neither of those two items made the biggest difference. The one that did was Fenrir's Tooth. The 200 attack damage is bananas good, right? Like really good. And so after doing some testing, I realized that not only did all the after ability auto attacks hit harder with Fenrir's, they hit even harder after the enemy dropped below 50% because it's increasing damage by 30%. So let's just say, you know, for a wild scenario that your passive's going off, it gives you 20% extra damage, and they get below 50% health. Then you get 30% extra damage from Fenrir's. Talking about not quite a 50%. I don't think they'll stack like 30, 20, 50. That's probably not how that works. It's probably increased by the 20% via the passive, and then 30% of that. So it's probably not quite a flat 50. It's not. I doubt that's how it works, but it actually might end up being more. I'll have to do the math on that, but anyways, it's a crap ton of extra damage. Plus the 200 attack damage. So those auto attacks hit way harder after each ability, but the abilities themselves hit way harder. And remember, you're casting them one after another and after another, and doing several hundred more damage per ability is actually a pretty substantial difference. I noticed a massive increase in damage from doing Fenrir's over the other two items, and that is actually the end of the build. And I think this build gives you a little bit of what you need. It's a little bit of tankiness to help him just be a little less squishy, especially early game. He's got the resistance, so he can't be crowd controlled quite as easily. He's got 25% cooldown reduction, which is pretty nice, but what he really has is a crap ton of attack damage. Now let's count it up. We got 200, 300, 370, so we got 450 attack damage, and that maximizes the Omni Arms. So we're gonna do 450 extra damage with each auto attack after doing an ability, which is a lot, because we're going to be doing it over, it's a 2-second cooldown, we're doing it over and over and over again. But overall, this build had me, now granted I'm in test mode, but I was actually doing over 1,000 damage on each of my ability 1 rolls, which is a lot. And then obviously the auto attack afterwards. This was all testing on the dragon, so it's really potent. You know, we'll have to test it out a little bit more to see how tanky it is, but I think this is a really solid bit of everything that I want Zuka to have. Zuka's not a heavy crit burst damage hero like Wukong, and he's also not somebody who needs a really high amount of survivability like Zephys. He's kind of right in that middle range, and I feel like we built him really well to be a medium burst, medium-ish tankiness, and he's not really tanky, but with his mobility, and he gets that shield from second ability, he can kind of take a little bit of damage, and I think this build kind of maximizes all those strengths while minimizing some of those weaknesses and making Zuka a very, very good hero to be played with in Arena Valor. Alright guys, that is the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoy the content. Remember, thumbs up, subscribe. You guys are the best. I hope you guys appreciate this build. Check out the hero quickly video on Zuka also for a little basic information about him. But thanks for watching, guys, and as always, until next time,